Hey, welcome to the show. This is live at Epiphan. It's Thursday at 3 o'clock. Hi, Dave. How's it
Doing
going?
well, George. Thanks.
You look great. You always look good, Dave, but you look really sharp this
That's
week. And
yeah.
so, um, today's show, we are going to be talking about ways to add remote guests into your live stream. So, just like you and I are doing here today, isn't that right, Dave?
Exactly. We're both kind of remote guests here today, because as usual in this pandemic world, we're both working from home and we're sending our images into our production studio and then producing the show from there. So effectively, we're both remote guests on this show.
That's right. We're living and breathing all the things we talk about here on this show. So if you haven't watched before, this is the show where we talk all about live video production. And lately, that has been a lot around remote aspects of video production. So we have been eating our own dog food, as they say, trying to learn how to do the best version of a remote setup that we can muster. And we're going to walk you through a number of different ways to get started. If you're looking at bringing in a remote guest and you want to know how you can do that, we scoured everybody in our office to understand different ways to do it, and we're going to pitch you them. And they're going to go from the really simple ones where you don't need any new technology, just browser-based tools, all the way up to really high quality ones like you're looking at right now. So Dave and I are kind of at one end of the spectrum where we're using the most professional setup, and then we're also going to show you the sort of entry level setup. So be sure to ask any questions you have in the chat about what we're doing or what you want to see here, and we'll try to get to them as soon as possible. So I guess we should get started. Dave, we have a bit of an agenda here.
Yeah, there's a few items.
So this is pretty much, yeah.
As you said, we're going to start with some very simple web-based solutions that are, I won't say low tech, but very easy to use, very simple, straightforward. They don't give a lot of control, but they're quick and simple. And then we're going to move on to how you can leverage the conferencing software like Zoom or WebEx or that kind of thing, and from that conference, be able to stream the content. And then we're going to move on to a little bit more sophisticated, giving more control and kind of higher quality is capturing conferencing images and putting them into a separate encoder or encoding software so that you have a little bit more production quality capabilities. You can, do some live switching and titling and things that are a little more difficult from the conferencing or are not available at all in some of the conferencing solutions. And then we're going to look at integrating, a streaming software tool, and then finally SRT with a hardware encoder, which is what we're doing today. So as you mentioned, we're kind of doing number 5, and over the last few weeks, our setup has really changed. So we were kind of doing number 3 mostly, and then we've moved to number 5. So there's different ways you can do it, and there's different trade-offs, and we'll go through each of these and take a look at what they mean.
When I look at this agenda here, it reminds me, it's like the history of our live show here, because we have done all of these on our live show over the years, trying different ways to improve upon this setup. So we've had some successes and some huge failures too. So we know it's kind of hard, but there are some easy ways to get started. So we'll jump right into maybe the most basic way. So Dave, why don't you give us an overview of some of the simple ways that you can bring in a remote guest?
So especially if you're just streaming from a single desktop or from your phone even, tools like Facebook Live allow you to bring in a guest into your session, and so you're streaming on Facebook Live, you can bring in a guest and chat with them. So that's a very simple way. It's kind of push a button, invite the guest in, they accept, and off you go. So that's a very easy way to do it. And then there are some platforms other than Facebook that allow you to do something similar. So in case you don't want to go just only to Facebook, let's say you want to go to multiple places, something like Restream would allow you to do it on their platform, bring in that remote guest, and then you can then go to YouTube, Facebook, multiple platforms. So you can do it right in your target platform if it happens to be Facebook. And Be Live is another one that has lots of tools for Facebook streaming. So there's a few choices there, and these are really simple push button, kind of bring a single guest in. They work well. they don't give you a lot of control over kind of the quality of the video that you're getting, or switching and production kind of capabilities, but they are very simple, very effective. You can do it with kind of very little technology.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, there's not a ton of control here. I mean, you're probably going to get some predefined layouts. Right. You're not going to be able to set those layouts and do cropping and adjust audio levels and stuff on your guests. So it's kind of, you get what you get from the other side when you receive it, and hope the other people have set up a decent audio video connection. Yep. But like you said, they're really easy to use. And in terms of quality, what kind of quality would these compare to?
Well, I would say it's probably similar to the kind of quality you would see in like conferencing software. The audio is going to be quite compressed. The video is going to be compressed. So mm-hmm. it's similar to what you might see in, say, a WebEx or a Zoom or that kind of thing. But you're...
Yeah, or even FaceTime.
Yeah, so you're taking whatever image they can give you on their phone or their device, which is, can be pretty decent. But then, as we talked about, you don't have a lot of options to modify that when you get it. It's pretty much you bring them in and they are as they are. There's no option to crop them or lay them out the way you would like. So you're really just, the app is going to present it the way it likes to present it, and that's pretty much what you're left with. So there's not a lot of options for customizing that or trying to make it look more produced. But for a very simple, mm-hmm. effective, bring them in and have a chat, it can be, a simple solution.
For sure. So let's move up a little bit. Let's talk about the next level. So this is kind of what we were doing last week. Actually, no, we weren't really doing this last week. We were involving Zoom. Sorry, we're not.
Yeah, we did.
So what?
I was going to say, we did look at this option at one point, and we didn't actually go for this one, but it was one we looked at. And in this case, you're going from Zoom or, something similar, conference tool, and you're sending RTMP from your Zoom session to, a CDN, a platform of your choice. It's RTMP, so you can direct at any CDN ingest that you like. But the idea here is that if you need an enterprise account or an education account or a pro account on Zoom to be able to do this, but once you have that, then you can send an RTMP stream. You're a little limited. You get the gallery view or the speaker view, but there's really not much else you can do to customize what the viewer is seeing. It's all driven from Zoom, and kind of what you see in your usual Zoom view as a Zoom client is what you're streaming to the platform. So your viewers are going to see what they would see as though they were on the Zoom call.
Mm-hmm. The only reason I can imagine doing this setup, Dave, is if I was already kind of using Zoom for collaboration of some kind, and I wanted to reach a huge audience. So or a very public audience. So I just wanted to stream out to YouTube or Facebook. Otherwise, I think I'd probably choose one of those other options that we showed in the first slide, like Lightstream or Vimeo or something like that. They're just a nicer tool for broadcasting, and your end product will look a little nicer.
Yeah, I think if you were to choose this option with the Zoom and streaming, maybe if you're trying to create a very sort of raw, behind the scenes, here's us meeting, and we want that meeting to be kind of public, but we want it to look like a meeting rather than a broadcast. This is a very effective way to do that, because you do present.
And does it show all the chat tools with it as well? I think you actually get a live stream of the chat too,
I believe so, but I haven't used this in a while, so I'd have to go back and research that one. But you're going to get a very sort of, as I said, raw kind of view. It's as though your audience has joined the Zoom call, so it's kind of intimate from that perspective. But you don't have a lot of control. So if that's what you're looking for, something that's kind of invite you in behind the scenes and see a meeting or a group chatting amongst themselves, this can be an effective way to do it. And it's quite simple. As long as you have that enterprise or pro education account, that's what makes it available in Zoom for you to be able to send that RTMP.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then to take it a step further would be to do something like what we're seeing here, to manipulate that conferencing setup. So this is kind of what we had been doing last week on our live show. We did a setup that was exactly this. And for many weeks since the beginning of this work from home period, we have been doing exactly this setup, cropping and bringing our our Zoom inputs into our Pearl 2 system, right?
Yeah, we've been using this for
And
quite a while. It works well, but it's got some caveats.
Mhm.
You don't have control necessarily over the order of the participants. Anyone who's familiar with these conferencing tools, if you spent a lot of time in WebEx or Zoom or similar, the order in which these windows and the size of the windows and things that pop up is very dependent on how many people are in the conference, and when they've joined the conference or when they leave and come back, can put them in a different spot. And if someone else joins, all the windows can be resized so that everyone fits on one screen. So it's a very kind of dynamic environment to work in. So what we were doing was cropping from this kind of gallery view, as we're showing kind of the bottom right. You can see the red line around that one participant. We could crop her out, feed her into or feed the whole image into the Pearl, and then crop out the individual participants, and then create layouts inside of the Pearl to place them the way we would like, with titling and side by side, or however we want them to look. So we're kind of taking the material from the gallery view and cutting it into pieces and then reassembling it in Pearl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's far from an elegant solution, but it's powerful if you have smart people at the helm who can figure all this out, because it does require a fair bit of finicky work, I would say, to get all of these things looking right and understand all the little gotchas that are involved in this. But
there are some definite...
We made it work for us. Like for our setup, where we had Pearl 2s available and we have producers available who can make all this work, it didn't take them long to make a great looking production.
Yeah, that's a really good point. This is not one you're going to be able to do on your own, right? To bring in a guest and be the talent and do it. This is
no, not at all. That'd be
you definitely want a dedicated producer to be doing these crops and monitoring them and doing the switching, because you could get bitten. If someone leaves the conference and everything changes, either position or size, you're gonna have to react to that on the fly. So you're gonna have some kind of safe layouts that you can switch to while you fix the ones that broke because people moved around. So it's a pretty fragile system. If you can control kind of the order in which people join and make sure they stay for the whole presentation or broadcast, that alleviates or at least mitigates some of that risk. But it's definitely not a foolproof scheme, and you want somebody like a producer full-time kind of setting it up and monitoring it as the broadcast goes on, because there could be surprises as you make your way through it.
We have found all of those surprises. Hopefully we don't find any more today. Our setup's a little bit more locked down today than it was when we first started doing this.
That's right.
So, smooth sailing so far, which is great.
The other thing, I was going to just say one more thing here is, as you crop from this gallery, you are losing a little bit of quality in two ways. One, you're getting whatever compression Zoom decides to apply to each of these participants in the feed that it provides. And that gallery view is going to be fed then to you, and you're cropping from that. So if you have, say, 9 guests, as this one is showing, you're getting a fairly small image in terms of actual resolution or pixels. And then you're going to take that and crop it and build something of a full image or a side-by-side. So there are some, I would say, visible kind of artifacts on the video quality side in this kind of setup that you just need to be aware of. It's hard to make that look really sharp, just because you're taking it from a conferencing tool, and that tool is optimized more towards latency and immediacy than pure video quality.
I would suggest, if you want to know about how this setup works, we did an entire live show describing this whole workflow in great detail with Cameron, our producer, running through what he does to get ready for the show. So look through our archives on YouTube and you'll see that show listed. So that brings us to a slightly more elegant solution than that, which would be to use an NDI output out of conferencing software.
Yeah, and so I was going to say, this is a nice improvement over the other one, because it gets rid of some of that risk in that Skype and soon we expect on Zoom and Teams and other platforms, you'll be able to get an NDI feed And the nice thing is it's not just one single NDI feed, in which case you still have to crop participants out of it. Instead, Skype will actually give you individual feeds for each participant. So as a producer,
So full screen, higher. Would they be higher quality? Would they still be a web RTC style quality image, Dave?
it's higher quality than, say, if you're cropping right from that gallery view and you have many guests,
Sure.
right? Because then
Sure.
you're really down to like
Yeah.
9 or 16 people on a screen. It's definitely higher quality from that point of view. And you don't have to worry about what happens if participant number 4 leaves and everybody gets reordered,
Yeah, of course.
right? or their thumbnails all change sizes and that kind of thing. So this one's a little bit safer. Not offered on every platform yet. We think, you know, it'll be on Teams and Zoom shortly, but for now it's a nice
Well, they have announced it, like, so it's publicly that they've announced that they are adding NDI in some capacity, and Skype and Teams are, you know, the same family. So
so
it's quite.
So
likely.
This is a nice kind of variation on the previous one, where you get a little bit more control. You're not as subject to surprises, but then you will need something that can handle multiple streams of NDI coming in. So you need a little bit of horsepower there to bring in NDI for each guest and then decode that and then be able to build it into your production. So does come out.
Right. So we have it. We would show it here like as though Skype is running on a laptop or a computer, and it's on the same network as our Pearl system, and our Pearl can detect, what do they call it? Discovery can discover those NDI feeds that are on that network and bring them in. And it could be that you have another computer running a streaming software that could also bring in those NDI feeds.
Yeah,
but like you say, the horsepower is going to be needed is going to be significant.
Yeah, we're showing Pearl 2 here, but that could be, you know, a reasonably hefty machine running some encoding software that supports NDI. So there are different options, but certainly it gives you that production quality. Now you can, like the one before where you're cropping people out, you can now build layouts or custom shots and be able to switch between them and make the production look the way you want it to look. So that's really the advantage of moving away from the earlier ones, is as soon as you get into using encoding software or hardware, then you get to make it look like your production, and you're really just using the conferencing or WebRTC or whatever to bring people in, and that gives you, you know, control over the way the production looks, and you're really only using them to get the source materials for your layouts.
So now we have another option, which I know is very popular right now. So vMix Call, it's really a feature within the vMix streaming software.
Right.
We tried this years ago, Dave, and I remember it was similar to bringing in a Skype call into our Pearl system in terms of quality through the vMix Call, but a kind of a tidy solution because it's in the same platform that you're doing your live streaming and your production to be able to bring in that guest. So it's very convenient. So I would put this at the level of, if you've already tried some of those web platforms and maybe you wanted a little more production in general, you might want to try something like a streaming software such as vMix, which has this great built-in vMix Call feature. It's not going to be near as high a quality as what you're seeing with Dave and I today, because it's still using I don't know, is it WebSocket based, Dave? Was that how you would describe all of these protocols? But
yeah, I mean, WebRTC's running over, you know, the traditional stack with UDP and that kind of thing, and we'll get to kind of our next solution that improves upon this. But this is a good, as you mentioned, a good solution if you're already familiar with something like vMix. Having the call function built right in makes it very easy to manage and very simple to use. So it's a great option if you're already using vMix or something similar. This is an easy way to bring those remote guests in.
So this brings us to our greatest and latest way to do a remote guest, which we're all very excited about here at Epiphan, because it enabled us to use these. Dave and I both have these really great cameras now that on loan from Canon, so we have beautiful images that we get to share in all their full high definition. So I'm able to stream this high definition feed into our studio, And Dave is doing the same thing at his end, and the quality is quite noticeable. I would suggest popping back to one of our videos from the last few weeks on the live show and comparing them side to side, and it's quite obvious how much better an SRT stream is. Dave, maybe you could explain what is SRT and why does it look so good?
Yeah, so SRT was developed by Haivision, a company in the industry, very well known in the video transport industry. And their main goal was to solve the problem of how do you transport video. So you've already kind of captured it on site. And the traditional way of doing this, they were looking, to capture that video and send it to a production center. So you're out at some remote facility or studio or field, and you've got to get it back to the production studio. That's really the problem they were trying to solve. And what they've done is create a protocol that's very tolerant to kind of unpredictable networks. So if you've got lots of jitter, some packet loss in that network, as you're bound to have when you're in that kind of last mile connection, SRT was really designed to accommodate that much better than TCP and just plain UDP and the other protocols that you see being used for video transport that really weren't designed for video transport. So SRT is a protocol that was designed kind of from the ground up to be low latency and very high quality, and to work well on those unpredictable kind of last mile networks, so you can get a good quality broadcast kind of quality feed from a remote site into the production studio.
Mm-hmm. So there's a couple of comments here in the chat. I see Roan is talking about, he's looking forward to seeing the difference between using Pearl 2 and vMix. I don't think we have a direct comparison with the vMix and what you're seeing today, but go take a look at somebody else's vMix call video out there, and you could probably get a sense of what the image quality difference is like. And be sure when you watch it on YouTube, you make sure you're watching it at YouTube's highest quality, which is for most videos 1080p. And another comment from Danny Grizzle asking us what Canon cameras we're using, and I'm using a Canon RP with a 28-70 2.0 lens. So this is Canon's newest mirrorless full frame camera. And Dave, I think you have a similar one. Right?
No, I traded mine just this week to try out the little Canon M200. So I'm using that one, and I'm actually just using the kind of kit lens that comes with it. So there's a 15-45 millimeter lens that I've got on there. So nothing super fancy on my end. It's a decent from a streaming camera point of view. It's quite capable, but it's by no means a really expensive rig. But it is pretty handy for this kind of streaming stuff and gives a reasonably good image.
Yeah, the timing is nice to help show off the capabilities of SRT. To have a nice camera to go with it certainly works. So here's another diagram kind of showing how you could actually have multiple guests coming in to a production. So the diagram is showing a Pearl 2 being the production hub here. And this is exactly what we have going on here today. We have Dave's using a Pearl in his home, bringing in his footage, and I'm using a Pearl in my home, sending an SRT signal to the Pearl. So unlike other streaming protocols, we often talk about them as like streaming just to YouTube. So you might say, I'm using Pearl 2 and I'm streaming to Wowza or YouTube or my CDN over RTMP. SRT, you can use it to bring in a signal as well. So we can ingest an SRT signal from Pearl 2 and then send it out however we like. So it's a slightly different kind of protocol that way, at least from a workflow point of view.
Yeah, and it gives Cameron, our producer, a lot of flexibility. He's receiving a good high quality image from each of us with independent audio, gives him the ability to mix all that the way that he would like. So there's lots of flexibility there to create a real, this is very close to a traditional broadcast sort of setup, but instead of SRT, normally that would be like a satellite link or a dedicated fiber link or something. So again, SRT was really built to bring that remote signal in good quality. And then we would be able to, do all the mixing and switching that normally happens in a production center with those high quality feeds that we're getting in. One thing we should mention that when you're bringing in kind of a remote guest, and we're going to have to sort of manage that guest. You do want to have some back channel communication with that guest. So SRT can be that production feed that's going out to your, your production, your program output, but you're going to want some kind of back channel. You could do that over SRT if your network is extremely well behaved. So if you're in your own kind of building or building to building where you manage all of that network, then you can get very low latency and do it that way. But more typically, you're going to be using something else. Today, we're using Zoom. So George and I will kind of converse over Zoom. And then we'll bring those feeds through SRT. So we're not taking from Zoom. We're just using Zoom to converse. And then that's going through SRT. So just to show you as an example, comparison here, we're going to flip to the Zoom because we can do this both ways because we've done it kind of before. So we're going to flip to the Zoom example, I think, here and show you the quality difference between what you have being and what is possible with SRT. So in this diagram, we're just showing I have a laptop that's running Zoom. Cameron has one at his end. George has one as well. We're on a Zoom call together. That's how we're communicating with one another. But George and I are both sending an SRT stream through our Pearl Minis up to the production Pearl 2, which Cameron is operating, and then that's doing the actual broadcast. So he's doing the switching and all of the transitions, everything in the Pearl 2, and we're just using the Zoom for the actual connection between us so that we can talk naturally. And that allows us to assign whatever level of latency we like to our connection in order to compensate for, high packet loss or high jitter on the stream. So now I believe, my confidence monitor is very small, but I think we're switched over to the Zoom side. And you should be able to see the quality difference between those two.
Mm-hmm. We have some comments in the chat here, people talking about how, a Pearl Mini might be an expensive thing to have to send out to a client. And it's true, to send out any kind of hardware to a customer is going to be costly, right? So if you don't have the budget for that, if it's not a big enough production, it's just not going to work. We hope there's going to be more ways for your remote guests to be able to contribute over SRT. Even I think vMix might offer a free version that you can use for your customers if they're willing to do that. And OBS you can use with SRT as well. So there are some basic software. I shouldn't say basic. There are some streaming software that have an SRT protocol support so that your remote guests could send footage over SRT, but there's none that are super easy right now where you could just, like setting up a Zoom call. There's nothing quite that seamless now.
No, not yet, but they are building
phone
them
apps
into,
might be, right?
Yeah, there are a couple phone apps that you can get. We've also started to see a few vendors announce, I'm not sure publicly yet, but certainly we're aware of a few vendors that are building SRT into their cameras.
That's right.
So that allows you to just, if again, that's a specific camera that your end user has to have. But as you mentioned, you could be using just OBS or vMix or other software or an app on your phone. So we've recently joined the SRT Alliance when we decided to put this functionality into Pearl. And that alliance is very large at the moment. So there's hundreds of companies that have all joined that alliance. And just about every couple weeks, we see another product announced that's got SRT on it. So I think that ecosystem is growing very rapidly. And so while we're showing Pearl Mini as one choice for kind of that remote guest to be able to send SRT into the production feed, that really could be any number of things, and that list is just getting longer and easier.
Yeah. So hopefully, like through these setups today, you can sort of pick your favorite. If you want a really easy setup to start out with, like, sorry, I know it's never nice to flip through slides quickly, but some of these web tools like Lightstream and Vimeo and Restream are probably going to meet the needs for a lot of people. And maybe you'll graduate. You'll as your budgets go up and you are willing to take on a little bit more complexity, you can try something like SRT and see the greatest quality that you can muster. we're gonna be using SRT a lot over the next couple of weeks, I expect.
The next couple of weeks, I expect, Dave, trying new things and trying some of these software tools.
Yeah, and that's been our experience. Is we really did kind of, as you mentioned right off the top, move through the gamut, right? We started with these kind of tools, and then now kind of we've evolved our setup so that it is SRT based. That gives us better quality, but it's fairly new to us. So as you said, we're going to learn and grow with that. We're going to try out different SRT devices, and we'll see where it goes. But we're really excited about the capabilities that SRT adds to this kind of remote guest application, and we hope you learned something here, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to carry on the conversation.
So that wraps it up for us, everybody. Thanks for watching. As always, subscribe to our channel. It helps us, and it lets you know when we're going live as well. So you can follow us on all the socials and visit our website if you want to learn more about Pearl Mini or Pearl 2 and how they might help you set up an SRT workflow. So thanks for watching, everybody.
Take care.